Hello, seekers. Kenny coming to you. I'm not in my basement sanctuary in my home in Seattle, Washington, where we usually do these videos. I'm actually at 8,000 feet in the Colorado Rocky Mountains, a place I love to come. I come often. I try to get here every year or two and spend some time in solitude with great friends. It's just beautiful here. I just absolutely love it. I wish you could see the scenery I'm looking at, but you can use your imagination. I'm filming in this direction because the sun, as you can probably see by the change in the lighting, is coming out. So today's quick lesson, I wanted to get something out for the website, and the thought that's been on my mind is about Christ's approach to a woman who is to be stoned for being a prostitute. And you know, the age-old adage of that those who have no sin cast the first stone. Once we've really looked into our own way of life and these kinds of things, there's no way we can continue in good conscience, especially as we're pursuing a spiritual way of life, to continue to judge others in the way that we judge them, to hold our fingers out, to point at other people, to look down our nose at anybody, because once you've committed all of those sins that you've held against other people in particular, or many of them, it makes it a little harder to continue to justify. And especially as we become more open-minded, and I'll remind you, as I do often, that you cannot have a closed mind and a loving and open heart at the same time. As soon as I say that this is a sin and I'm not going to have anything to do with a person that's doing this, and we've blocked ourselves off from the sunlight of the Spirit. That's the nature of the spiritual laws that we operate in as spiritual beings here having this human experience. So the important thing is, here's this woman being judged by a group of men. And we take that into context. In today's society, we still have this going on. The insanity of that this woman is being judged by a group of men. Mary Magdalene, who was Christ's closest confidant, maybe arguable, but she was one of the closest confidants, one of his closest friends. And the example that I love to give people is when Christ was crucified. And think about this in the metaphorical way of thinking that we do here in New Thought Life. When you think about this, think about it metaphorically. What does this mean to me in my own life? Don't get caught up in the nonsense about this argument about whether this is the truth or the one and only truth. This is a metaphorical story out of the New Testament, and I don't think we need to go further than that. When the Christ was crucified, and you can look at that as the man Christ, the Son of our Heavenly Father, or you can look at this as the Christ within coming to its death. In other words, we have been awakened and we go back to sleep and we suffer this crucifixion. When the Christ was crucified, Mary Magdalene, who was a prostitute, who had a tattoo marked on her body forever as a penalty for being a prostitute, that marked her forever, that people could see that, and no matter where she went or how much she changed, she was branded that this woman is an outcast. But the Christ held her as one of his closest and best friends. And she was the last to leave the crucifixion. She was the closest to Christ. That's the metaphor. She was with him. When Christ resurrected, when the resurrection, the waking back up happened, who was the first one to see the Christ? Mary Magdalene. The last one to leave and the first one to see him. And like a lot of spiritual awakenings and a lot of experiences that we have with the Christ, she didn't recognize him. The Christ had to say, "Mary, it is I." And Mary immediately began to weep, realizing that this resurrection had happened. So the thoughts that I've had and the things that I've been working out in my own mind lately, and I could ask for any help from any of the people that are seeing this video, please meditate on this and think about that. Why is that? Why is it that it was a woman who had been branded as this person who had fallen from grace? Why was she the last one to leave and the first one to see? What that means is she spent the least amount of time of anybody, of all of his followers. She spent the least amount of time without the presence of the Christ, this indwelling Christ, if you will. That's an amazing story. Why is it that she is? And I believe it goes to the core of the Christ message, and I think many would agree that so many churches have forgotten what the Christ was about. That Christ was a homeless man, that the Christ had no possessions, that the Christ was allowing the universe to provide for him and his followers on a daily basis, that he believed that through our own faith we could move mountains and heal the sick. It's exactly the opposite of so many spiritual movements today. And the New Thought life is following on the path of the Christ. That is, that this message will have the most depth and weight for the downtrodden, that many churches today, and this isn't meant to be a criticism. I'm not sure why this really is even coming to me in this way, but it's not meant to be a criticism. These churches are helping many, and I think it's important to recognize that the Catholic Church by far outgives even some governmental entities in helping the poor and healing the infirmed and visiting the jailed, and it goes on and on. So, but many churches today are what I would call upwardly mobile. They are seeking to attract the prominent businessmen into their fold. They're attracting the most powerful politicians would be coming to their church. If a sports star comes, they can say, yes, this person from that team, he's a member of our church. They're upwardly mobile. And that's lost the vision of the Christ who was downwardly mobile to have compassion and love for Mary Magdalene. And I would propose the answer to that question: why is it that Mary Magdalene spent so little time without the Christ compared to everyone else? Why was she the first one to see the Christ? And I think it's because Mary Magdalene understood the message of the Christ. She understood that message, how important that message is. She understood it because she was one of the downtrodden. She was one of the abused. She was one of the thrown away. She was one of the outcasts. And there is no stronger bond on that we know than that love that exists for somebody who we know understands where we've been, the depths that we've gone, the psychic pain that we've endured. And when we have somebody in our life that understands those things as I understand those things about other people, that is a bond. That is the Mary Magdalene bond of love. It is the Sacred Heart of Mary Magdalene. I hope that helps you. I hope that that you'll, if you haven't had a chance yet, that you'll get and read the Awakened Giant Sleeping Spirit book. It's available on Amazon, and particularly if you've read the book, that you'll go to Amazon and give reviews. It's incredibly important. This isn't a plea from my ego. It's a plea that we want this book and this message to help a lot of people, and one way of doing that in today's world is good reviews from people who have purchased and read the book. And I hope you're enjoying this. I hope you'll feel free to contact us on Twitter and Facebook at New Thought Life. Twitter at New Thought Life. We love you. God bless you and keep you until we see each other and have contact with each other again. Blessings.